Victoria's song has guided tech startups to multi-billion-dollar exits, helped artists achieve international acclaim, and empowered executives to transform their companies into impact-driven powerhouses. That's right. With clients in 43 countries generating over $5 billion in enterprise value, her bending reality method guides visionary leaders, that's all of y'all, to era-defining success. She's on a mission to support extraordinary leaders as they impact meaningful change for humanity's greatest outcome. She works with billion-dollar company CEOs such as George Owen of Honey, tech founders like Peter Rive, CTO of SolarCity, and celebrities like Cindy Crawford. She is the author of the Wall Street Journal bestseller, Bending Reality: How to Make an Impossible Probable. A Forbes 30 Under 30 venture capitalist, Yale University and Harvard Business School alumna, Victoria bridges ancient wisdom with modern business science with spirituality. If you're ready to commit forward, bend reality, and achieve wild success beyond your perceived potential, let Victoria show you how. Community, please welcome Victoria Song!
Hello, collaborators. It's so wonderful to be here today. I feel so aligned with the vision and mission of Nightingale, so I'm so excited to accept this invitation to speak here today. All right, a little bit of background on me. So I went down the rabbit hole about 10 years ago, studying and training with the world's best coaches, therapists, alternative healers, and I hired over 25 of them. And I learned through all of the modalities, techniques that I was learning, there emerged a meta framework, like a really key synthesis of these universal laws that I kept seeing reappear over and over again, whether I was working with a life coach, a business coach, a money coach, a health coach. And so I decided today, what I want to do is I want to share with you the first and most important code, the universal law that I have discovered for bending reality. So who would like to learn how to bend their reality today? Amazing. All right, so to introduce this first code, I'm actually going to invite you all to close your eyes. And so just taking a moment here, grounding, feeling your feet on the ground. I would love for you just to reflect back on the last 7 days and recall a moment that was unpleasant, that didn't go the way you wanted it to go. Maybe it was seeing a politician on screen, whatever it is. Just tune in for a moment and feel whatever that brings up on your body. And just notice. What do you notice sensationally going on in your body? What is happening to your breath? Do you notice your palms getting a little sweaty? Do you notice any muscles tensing in your body? Tightening in your chest, in your stomach, in your throat? Okay. I would like you to let that go now. This first state is what we just explored, I call contraction. And on your next exhale, keeping your eyes closed, let that go completely. And then on your next inhale, I invite you to go in your mind's eye and picture in the last 7 days an event that was pleasant, a moment that went maybe even better than you planned. And feel what that feels like in your body. Do you feel your chest opening up, your breath slowing down, Maybe your shoulders are back and you're sitting taller. Does it feel calm? Do you feel relaxed? This state is called expansion. All right, so you can open up your eyes now, and we're going to dive into each of these states. This first state, you notice these things happen, correct? You're breathing shallow, there was tightening in your chest, stomach, or somewhere else in your body. Maybe your palms got a little bit sweaty. Maybe you felt some buzzing, hot face, dry mouth, right? This is also very easy to narrow our sense of reality, where it's almost like we have a tunnel vision. And also from this place, it's very easy to trigger our fight-flight response. And how much connection, how much access did you have to any flow, creativity, inspiration from here? Probably not much at all, right? So this is a state that my clients often find me in. And I would say that most of the world operates from a place of contraction without even realizing it. And I believe that when we are in the state of contraction, we are unconsciously bending our reality out of our favor. In this other state, or here, let me talk to you a little bit more about contraction here. In this state, you tend to feel judgmental, right? You feel impatient, you feel really defensive, you feel sure that your point of view is correct, right? It's really hard to have a conversation with someone when they are in a state of contraction. In this state, we are also terrified of uncertainty. Anything that feels unknown, anything that feels like I cannot control and predict my life feels very frightening. And this is also the state that, we talked about this morning, is where our ego lives. It's my belief that our ego is actually an imaginary identity that takes form when we're in a state of contraction. And in this place, anything that's perceived as a threat to our ego, which is maybe, I wonder what you're thinking about me right now. Do you think I'm smart? Do I belong in this room? What's my status? All of those questions feel like physical threats to our safety. This is what being in a state contraction creates for us. And now, expansion, that second state I had you feel into, when you remembered an event that went well. You noticed these things, right? Your breath slowed down. You felt like you were sitting taller. You felt grounded, you felt calm, excited, right? This is a state that I help my clients make their default state of reality. Because from here, how much access do you have? You have access to infinite possibilities from here. So a lot of what you just heard in my bio, my clients have been able to do things like grow and scale their company to $4 or $5 billion to exit it. Technologists, scientists developing patents, inventing new innovations, the first electric hydrofoiling boat in America. These are truly visionaries, just like all of you here today, just like what Mikkel is creating here with Nightingale. You are all breaking and creating new paradigms. This is what's required, an expansive state of consciousness. And in this state, these are all the qualities and values, that we like to have as an organization, as a community. Open, curious, trusting, optimistic, happy, grateful, playful. What you saw today on the screen earlier, like growth-oriented, collaborative. You all are collaborators. So everything that I have heard Mikkel say today, to me, is just ringing all these bells of expansion, expansion, expansion. Everything here has been created from this expansive consciousness. And from here, we see solutions, opportunities, instead of problems and challenges. And this is why the first code to bending reality that can absolutely change your life is the self-awareness to ask yourself, are you contracted or expanded right now? The reason I love this question is because you don't need a biometric device or any wearables to tell you your state. All of you just did it with me right now. It is so clear. You can feel it internally. It just takes the self-ownership to look in the mirror, to be self-aware and ask yourself, what am I feeling right now, contracted or expanded? And the reason why this is so important is because I believe it's the energy from which we create from, contraction or expansion, that dictates the quality of our creations and the trajectory of our life. And so I want to share with you the ladder. So you can see, I'm not going to make anybody raise their hand here and tell me what level you're on, but I want you to see that it goes from the most contracted states here of fear, grief, despair, to the highest level of expansions here at level 12, joy, appreciation, empowerment, freedom, love. And when I listened to Mikkel's speech, and I met him multiple times leading up to today, every time I meet him, I'm like, there he is, positive expectations, believing in infinite possibilities. And then I hear him on stage today and all the opening, and I'm just like feeling the enthusiasm, the eagerness, the passion, the joy, the empowerment. And so what I help my clients do is, how do we start to make these upper levels, not just touch them, but actually stabilize them, make them our default state of being, so that we can begin to live our life from this frequency. And all of you have actually bending reality copies in your bag, so you can learn through the book, how do you start to go from level 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, all the way up to 12? And how do I start to, again, live my life from this consciousness? Because as you see this ladder, you can probably recognize that so much of the world, the actions, the behaviors on television and the news, you can see what level that is coming from, right? I do believe that we hurt each other when we are operating from these states of contraction. And that's why I don't believe it's enough to tell us to memorize. We should feel joy, we should feel happy, we should feel passion. We have to actually understand, oh, it's an emotional state of being. It's a state of consciousness that I can cultivate from within. And it's truly from within, right? Only you can change your frequency. Nobody else can get in there and move you up these levels. This is completely self-ownership, self-responsibility, self-leadership to do this. And the reason why this is so important beyond feeling good, because everybody wants to feel passion and joy, and these are feel-good emotions, is that in my work, in my studies, I have found that we actually receive whatever our heart and mind agree on. So I just want to pause and let you just contemplate, chew on this for a moment. Because we bend our reality toward whatever our mind and heart agree on, including our fears, including our anxiety, anything we're trying to avoid from happening, hate. We actually create this if our mind, our thoughts, and our heart and our feelings are aligning with that. So just to give some examples here, I want you just to shout out loud, imagine I'm getting ready to come speak to you all today. What would be some expansive thoughts that I might be thinking? Like, oh, I'm so excited, 800 hearts, 800 new faces, right? What else might I be thinking expansively? What are some expansive thoughts? Yes, the opportunity to share my work. How incredible, right? What are some of the emotions I might be feeling that are expansive? Yeah, love, yes, and excitement, gratitude, right? These are some really feel-good, expansive emotions. But now on the flip side, what could have been some contractive thoughts that I would have waking up this morning? Fear, yeah, okay, so for one, I could have been like, oh no, I didn't get enough sleep. Or what if I trip on stage? What if I spill my breakfast on my outfit? Right? What if I get up there and I forget everything I was going to say? Right? So these are some of the contractive thoughts that I could have had. And then what are some of the contractive emotions I could have been feeling? Insecure, inadequate, like imposter syndrome, self-doubt, who am I? You know, maybe there's some confusion, maybe there's some stress, maybe there's just like, typical self-doubt that comes up. So all of these emotions, can you see that if I had woken up with those thoughts and those emotions and then came here, I probably would have done a really poor job already, right? I mean, we'll see how this goes. But so far, I remembered my slides, okay? So far, so good. But I want you to really see this, that whatever my thoughts and my feelings align with is what I manifest in my reality. So are your thoughts currently incongruent with expansion? Are they aligned with an expansive frequency? Are your emotions currently resonating on an expansive frequency? Because again, it's not enough, right? Because so many of you probably have heard of limiting beliefs and mental blocks, and maybe have even done therapy before and have all this intellectual, cognitive self-awareness. But then you've also noticed, like, even though I'm trying to think this positive thought and I positive affirmation mantra my way through, if the emotional state is actually turbulent because you're like, I don't believe that. You're lying to yourself. You don't really believe that, right? If that's really what emotionally is happening, you're just creating dissonance between your mind and your heart. And so much of what I help my clients do is really resolve whatever dissonance may be occurring between their conscious and their subconscious, their mind and their heart, right? How do we get all of these parts of ourselves to actually integrate and feel on the same team, essentially? And in my work of how to learn to bend a reality, it's really this, that we can literally jump timelines, create a new lifeline when we can access a different frequency. And here you can just think of frequency being contraction or expansion by watching the thoughts and feelings we are emitting. So looking at your life, or maybe let's not make it that personal. Let's take someone you know, someone you know, and just think about if you were to imagine, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a partner, maybe it's a parent, but I want you just to picture, like, what is it like to be this person and their awareness? What do you imagine their thoughts are like, their emotions are like? What I'm talking about is basically behind that expression, like, oh, I woke up on the right side of the bed today, or I woke up on the wrong side of the bed today. So it's just like whatever frequency that you are already compounding one after another, you are staying on a certain lifeline. There's an unfolding of events that either align with what you want or what you don't want. And until you take the ownership to change your frequency, you will actually continuously find yourself staying in the same lifeline. It's almost like the parameters of your reality will keep continuously giving you contractive energy back, right? It's like the people and the situations will design perfectly orchestrated to maintain your contraction, if that is what you're feeling. And that's why it's so important, even when life out there, events are happening, even in our own life, like things that do not go the way we planned. Give you an example. Let's say I'm renting a house here in Salt Lake, and I'm really frustrated because my landlord didn't fix the AC, so I've had like the hottest summer and I have no air conditioning. But I know that in a month, I'm going to be leaving, and I already picked out the house, and it's beautiful, it's bigger, the AC works, the neighbors are amazing. But if I stay in my contracted frequency, feeling annoyed, feeling frustrated, I promise you that when I leave to that new place in a month, I will find all these unexpected surprises of unpleasant things, like maybe things will start breaking down, maybe the AC won't work, maybe this winter the heat will stop working. That is what will happen if I do not realize, oh, I have to change my state from contraction to expansion. Even if the thinking is just, I'm so glad that I have a roof over my head right now. I'm so glad that I'm safe. I'm so glad that I got to have a house to just transition into Utah and give me a little pad to start looking for new homes from. I have to start really thinking about what is the perspective, what is the meaning that I can make that allows me, even with my circumstances the same, I'm starting to access a higher frequency. I'm starting to feel into what is an expansive interpretation, feeling that I can have, even if it's just acceptance for what is right now. Maybe I'm not going to be excited about it, but at least I can accept it with peace in my heart. And so I've seen this time and time again. There is a shift that occurs in my clients when they take radical ownership over their state of being. This is what it's like to take back your power. It is the art of learning to lead ourselves. And it's one of those things that, feels like, I've been changing, my frequency has been upgrading every day. I go from a 1 to 2 to a 3 to a 4. It happens over time, and then in an instant, it feels completely different to be around this kind of person. And then your reality literally bends in response to this change in you. And so I thought about the evolvitude statement and even made it into my slides here. I practice self-governance, growth mindset, transparency, and responsibility. For me, that really sounds like I practice expansion. And, I know that it sounds simple, we know it's not easy, but there is truly no greater life. My clients are role models of this. They're exemplifying this, that the joy, the impact, the beauty, the passion, the purpose. Mikhail's a walking example of this, right? This is what's possible when we choose expansion. And so who would like to learn how to dissolve contraction so that you can make expansion your default state? Yeah? Okay. And for this technique that I'm about to introduce to you, that I take every one of my clients through, it just requires you to think about an event that maybe in your current life is creating some contraction. And I want it to feel real, okay? So don't pick up like a hypothetical thing that you saw on a TV show about a character. I want it to feel personal. I want it to feel like it's a family member. It's a partner, romantic partner, something that's really alive for you. That's going to be the contraction we're going to resolve. And the really cool thing about this on the other side you'll learn is that once we do this, it's done on this topic, and then you get to just have this tool for other things that come up because, life brings opportunities to feel things. Okay, so recalling in this moment, I want you to think about something that is a source of contraction for you. And if anyone has any questions on this, just so we do the technique, feel free to raise your hand because I want to make sure you're ready when we go into this. I'm going to have you close your eyes again for this technique. But if anyone's like, I have nothing to feel contracted about, my life is amazing, raise your hand so we can clap and celebrate you. Okay. Yeah, so that's what, yeah, amazing. Congratulations. Wonderful. Amazing. And so then for you, maybe the contraction is, I just wish more people could feel this, and I'm kind of sad that more people don't feel this. Okay, so maybe you can feel into that. But any questions before we introduce this technique? Okay, great. So with that, I'm going to have you actually close your eyes, and all you have to do is just follow my voice here. All right, so again, taking a couple deep breaths and just grounding your feet. Taking a couple deep breaths in through your nose, out through your mouth, feeling that lateral breathing of your ribs horizontally expanding. Okay. And then now I'm going to have you tune in to that contractive situation. It could be a person or an event. And really tune into that. The more we feel it, the more we can release it. Good. So just notice, what's the image here? What's the thought? Think that thought fully. And what's the emotion? Is it frustration, fear? Imagine there's a dial on that and you're turning up the dial, turning it up, intensifying the feeling. And what's the sensation of that in the body? Where is that tightening? Okay, good. Letting that go on your next exhale. And then now on your next inhale, you're going to breathe in the opposite, the expansive state. Whatever the opposite of the situation or event would look like and feel like. Good. Breathing that in. What's the image here? And what's the thought? Thinking that thought fully. And what's the emotion? Can you go into it even more, feel it even more? Noticing the sensation of that in the body. Where do you feel that expansion? Breathing that in, enjoying that feeling. And then letting that go on your next exhale. Good. And then I'm going to ask you to now breathe in both states at the same time. I know it might feel a little funny at first, but just imagine you're sprinkling in a little bit of that first contracted state, and then you're mixing in and sprinkling in a little bit of that expansive state, and then feel yourself mixing the two together. And at the top of your inhale, you can even picture and feel yourself squeezing the two states together at the top of your breath, and you can feel like all the muscles almost tightening down the center channel of your body from your head to your toes as you breathe them in, and then you release on your exhale. Good, doing that a few more times here. Breathing in both states at the same time. And release. Doing that again, breathing in both, squeezing the two states at the top of your inhale before you release on your exhale. And then just noticing the quality of this blended state. Good. And then let this go. And then we're going to come back to this first state of contraction, and we're going to see what's left here to feel? So let's see, let's explore this contracted state. What's the image here now? What's the thought that we haven't yet had? And the emotion? Maybe there's a new angle on it. Maybe you're free associating and thinking of another thing that upsets you here. Let yourself go there, feel it fully. And then you can let that go on your next breath. Good. And then on your next inhale, we're going to go back to that expansive state, the opposite state, and tune in what's left here to feel. Notice the image here. And what's the thought? The emotion? Can you intensify it, feel it even more? Noticing the sensation of that. Where do you feel that expansion in your body? Breathing that in and letting that go on your next exhale. And then again, we're going to breathe in both at the same time. You're going to picture yourself as an artist, blending two colors together. So bringing that first color of contraction in from that first state, remembering what that felt like. And then mixing in that second color from that expansive state. Blending the two together. That's it. Breathing in both, again, feeling at the top of your inhale that you are squeezing the two states together before you release. Good, doing that again, squeezing the two states together. And just noticing what it feels like. What color have you made? What's the quality of this blended state? Beautiful, letting that go on your next breath. And now we're going to do this one final time. So you've got to get at any remaining charge of contraction. We're going to get it in this next round here. So coming back to that first state of contraction and just feeling what's left to feel here. Good, going there fully. We're tying up any loose ends here, so go into the contraction, noticing the image. The thought, the emotion, and where you feel that sensation in your body. Good, turning up any remnant contraction here. Any residue that's left, go into it fully now. And letting that go on your next breath. And then remember, one last time, we're visiting that opposite expansive state. So go there fully, finish strong. What's left to feel and acknowledge in this expansive state? That's it. Turn it up. What's the image? What's the thought? And what is the emotion here? Feel yourself dissolving into the center of this emotion, letting it wash over you fully. Turning it up. And what's the sensation here? Good. Intensifying that feeling in the body. And then you can let that go on your next breath. And then the last time, final time, you're going to breathe both states at the same time. So imagine you're cooking, maybe you're making a soup, and you're sprinkling in some of those ingredients from the first contracted state, remembering what that feels like, the thoughts, the image here. And then you're blending in some of that expansive state, the thoughts, the images, the feelings there. And you have your pot and your spoon, and you are stirring that soup together. Blending these two states together. And as you breathe in, again, imagine you're squeezing the two states at the top of your inhale and releasing on your exhale. Good, doing that a few more times here, breathing in both states at the same time. Squeezing them at the top of your inhale, exhaling. And one more time here, breathing in both one last time. Squeezing the two together and release. And then resting here, noticing, what does this blended state feel like? Does it feel like you can separate the two? Or does it feel like they're now one and the same? When you feel into one, noticing its connection to the second state. Resting here in this piece where you've integrated the polarity, resolving the charge on your contraction. And just imagining and feeling how good this feels. If you could take everything that bothers you and gets under your skin on a daily, weekly basis, you can take yourself through this process and feel this much peace and calm on the other side. Wonderful. And you can start coming back to this space and time, opening up your eyes. I would love to hear from a few of you what that was like for you. And I already see you guys chatting with each other. I'm worried if we go to the group, it might take a while to come back. So maybe if anyone just wants to raise their hand and just share. I can't see very well from the stage. Does anyone have their hand up over here? Okay, please.
I just felt like it was truly transformation.
Amazing. I think, are we getting a mic? Okay. I can hear you, but let's wait for a moment. Yeah.
Hi. I actually thought it was truly transformational. The blending and the mixing and the blending and the mixing and the feeling I've never experienced something like this before, even though I've done some different meditative things. And I thought it was wonderful.
Incredible.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Thank you for sharing. Anybody else want to share what you noticed when you blended the two? Yes.
I have a loud voice. It was hard for me. I will be honest. It was very hard.
Yeah.
Putting the two emotions and experiences together.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about my demonstration process. For everybody. So I think it was hard blending the two, like positive and negative
Uh-huh.
experiences together. And I was like, maybe this is not gonna work. But it was a very reflective. I would say it was a reflective process.
Yeah.
I need to work on it then.
Yeah, so I would stick with it. So basically, what you'll notice is there's some cognitive dissonance at the beginning where you're kind of like, what do you mean hold both at the same time? Like, it feels like it's like a push and pull feeling, which is why we did it 3 times in a row here. But for something that's that charged, what your example is, I would do just a couple more rounds of it. So I want to introduce it so you have the tool, so you know how to do it. It's very simple. You can remember to do this by yourself now. But how I know that I'm complete with it is that when I go back to that contracted state, I'm sort of like, I don't really feel much contraction left here to feel. That's a good sign for me that I've dissolved it. So who was able to feel that at some point it kind of felt like these were neutral and there was acceptance and peace and you were like, there's not a lot left, okay, cool. And then for a lot of other of you, you might be like, I picked the wrong person to do that on because there's a lot of more rounds I need to do on this person, right? And so just do like a 4th round or a 5th round, okay? For the purposes of time, I didn't want to like have it sit here for more than 10 minutes. But at home, this is probably one of the best meditations you can do, right? So when you wake up in the morning, you can notice like, I feel like I woke up on the wrong side of bed and I just need to calm my mind, remove the charge around this thing that I'm spinning on first thing in the morning, right? Or before you go to bed at night, so that you're not, if you notice yourself thinking about the day and like can't rest because you have all these feelings going on, you can use this tool as well to neutralize. There is a hand here. Okay, anyone else? Yes, this over here on the end.
I started coming up with alternate strategies and ideas of how to address the physical realities of what's occurring so that maybe I could resolve it in this space as well.
Yes.
They were not ideas that had previously come into my awareness.
That's incredible. Wow. Thank you for sharing that. Amazing. Yeah. Yeah, that's another amazing point. It's that sometimes we need to come and bring some neutrality to the situation so we can see a more expansive perspective or a higher perspective. Yeah, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing. Amazing. All right, well, I would love to meet any of you who would like to stop by later. I'm actually going to be signing copies of my book by registration, which I'm told you guys know better than me where that means. So I'll have to find it. But during the lunch break, I'll actually be out there, so I'd love to say hello. And yeah, this is such powerful work that you're all doing here at Nightingale. Like, it's such an honor for me to be here. Usually I'm brought into organizations and asked to like, take our corporation from contraction to expansion, please. Like help our leaders start to lead more expansively. And in this case, I had this really rare and unique invitation where I saw the PowerPoints, I saw the values, I saw everything that was shared here, and I was like, I don't think you guys need me. Like, you guys are really expansive over there. And so it's such a privilege to come in when, you guys are already having expansion be your North Star. And the work that you're doing in the world, like the ripple effect of all the lives touched through each and every one of you. It's such a privilege for me to be here with all of you. So thank you so much for inviting me in. It's such a pleasure to be here, and I'm wishing you all infinite expansion. And with that, I am happy to open up and answer any questions that you may have about expansion, contraction, the work I do with clients, anything at all. Yes.
Wondering how you found yourself in, how did you find yourself in this path to do this kind of spiritual but business focused development? Like, how did you find yourself in this path? What brought you here?
Yeah, thank you for asking. So I, at 23, I started doing venture capital, which is investing in tech startups. And I feel really lucky that at a young age, I was able to be exposed to like boardrooms and leaders and CEOs and people who kind of had it all on paper. But I noticed how miserable a lot of these people were, and also just kind of how unhappy and unfulfilled even like my firm was. When I looked around at my colleagues, my coworkers, my classmates, I got to go to Yale and Harvard Business School, and I saw even these people who had beautiful titles and resumes were kind of the most empty. And I just got the sense that like there was this void from within that everybody was kind of looking in all the wrong places to fill, right? So whether that was like, let me accumulate more or make more money or achieve this status, this rank, and then maybe one day I'll feel happy. I saw that they were kind of just chasing almost like the blind leading the blind, or just sort of not realizing there's no pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. And so I would call it like a bit of an existential breakdown, because once once you see something you can't unsee it, and I really found myself in this place where I felt like the work I'm doing is so meaningless, and what's the point of, I was tech investing, so I was like, what's the point of investing in technologies that help us save time or like extend life if like so many of us don't even know how to feel good with the precious time we already have? And so I had that existential crisis awakening. I noticed I was in a lot of contraction. Everybody around me was in a lot of contraction. And I felt like I had to figure something out. And I didn't know what it was at the time. I left venture capital. I started like going down kind of my own soul searching journey. That's why I hired so many coaches. Like I felt pretty lost and pretty like there was no way to solve this problem. And at the end of all of that, like over 10 years now that I've been getting to study this work, I really discovered these codes to how to bend our reality. What I found is the meta framework behind peak performance, behind like training Olympian athletes, flow state, behind like actually real magic. If it feels magical to you to get to bend your reality in the direction that you want, then what this is actually real magic. And so through the work that I did, I really got to see these like universal laws, almost like these puzzle pieces were coming together. And then I got this picture that inspired me to write the book, Bending Reality. And I've gotten to apply these teachings and these learnings now to so many different kinds of people, from Olympian athletes to tech CEOs to creatives and artists, to like film directors and producers, to scientists who are like literally inventing new things. Like everyone across the board has found that when they're in this flow state, what I call expansion, or what some people might call peak performance state, or that mind-heart coherence, which is what some people call it as well, when our conscious and subconscious is aligned with expansion, when we're vibing at these high frequencies, which is maybe what a spiritual teacher would say, that is truly when we can bend our reality. And as that slide up there said, it was like everything is within. All the power is within. And that is when I realized, like, wow, I gotta go tell everybody how powerful they are. Like, we actually have access to supernatural abilities if we learn to cultivate the state of expansion within. Yes.
Hey, oh, I just wondered what your thoughts or opinions are on the influence of venture capitalism on politics and democracy, like in particular, venture
Good question.
capitalists using their capital to
Yeah.
advance their particular political ideologies.
Yeah.
I mean, you can respond however, I just thought. I would
Yeah,
ask
definitely creates
someone
a lot
who's
of
in the
contraction,
field.
even just hearing the question, And yeah, I mean, I think that that's what I'll say is I think that's partly why I left, because I realized that that position was not the position that I think was going to move the needle for the kind of work that I think is really necessary in the world. And and again, I don't want to say anything is good or bad, but I know from where I sat, I had this feeling of like, oh, I'm not just trying to make the rich richer, so why am I doing this thing called venture capital? But that said, it's still, I don't want to say it's a bad industry, because obviously we invest in a lot of innovation, technologies, and amazing companies and startups get created because of venture capital too. But I guess I'm saying I agree with you, and I don't like it.
I had a question in regards to your path. Oh, I'm over here.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Well, first I have to say I'm looking forward to reading your book and getting it signed. And I wanted to know, while you're on this journey, what icons are you looking for, kind of inspiration to keep you in the game? What are you reading? And who are you seeing that are doing work that you admire?
Thank you for asking that. Yeah, I have so many mentors, which is why I mentioned like I've hired over 25 coaches, and counting. I'm still hiring people today. So I feel like the work never stops, and so much of why I still continue to seek this work out is because it's hard to see ourselves, right? We all have blind spots. So I'm always reading books. Recently, and I don't want to sound too weird and crazy up here, but recently I've been reading a little bit about past life regressions. I don't know if that's, I feel like this is like a different coffee side chat right now, but Many Lives, Many Masters is the name of the book. Yeah, again, this might sound a little weird. I feel like I had you and I might lose some of you right now, but basically, in my work recently, when I've asked people, because sometimes we do a little bit of like hypnotherapy, getting people into their subconscious state to understand things that maybe their conscious mind is resisting, and I've asked questions in that state such as like, when's the first time you remember feeling this? Expecting them to say something like, oh, when I was 3, when I was 5, but instead, it would be like a woman telling me about her past life as a man, as a soldier, and I'm just sitting here being like, wow, okay, like this is interesting. So yeah, I would say that some of my work today, I don't necessarily like lead with it because I get hired by a lot of businesses, but I feel like on a soul level, on a spirit level, I'm very open-minded and I'm very curious, and I feel like my clients give me kind of like always new challenges and new things to look into. So I know I just lost probably like 30% of you on that answer.
Thank you so much for your words. Most of us in this room are either faculty or students, which we call learners. And I wondered if you had any advice within that context for those of us who are preparing nursing leaders of the future and supporting those who are facilitating that today. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like there's so many things that you guys are probably already doing from just like the vision and mission and values that I've seen, your mission statements. One thing I would say is that this work, even when you're doing it in service, can feel exhausting at times, I'm sure all of you are gonna face things, see things that are so hard that I almost wish that none of us had to see and face and experience and helping the people move through the things that they're going to move through in their life. And so I think the best thing I can say for teachers, healers, I consider you all healers, is to make sure you fill your cup first and to make sure that you're really giving from that like cup overflowing, so that at the end of the day, like, yes, all of us are energized and inspired by our passion and purpose, But if we are giving from that empty place, we will burn out. We will, unfortunately, we might not be able to stay in this for very long if we're not taking care of ourselves first. And so I would say just really make sure that in your homes, you feel like you're able to receive love and receive care and be taken care of on some level as well. And if you're currently the person in your life where you feel like I have to take care of the kids and then go take care of saving the world, and then I come home and I have to take care of my partner, that's really what I'm kind of bringing attention to here is just make sure you fill your cup first, make sure you take care of yourself, make sure you invest in doing this work for you. And I feel like it's the most extraordinary privilege to get to be in service, and it's the kind of thing that we need more people being able to stay in it for the long game. And so I would just ask you each to take good care of yourselves and rejuvenate at events like this. It's such a wonderful thing that there's this conference and that I can see and feel how much love and care went into creating this. So just really enjoy yourself, fill your cup, and that's not just with self-care, that's really with joy, fun, play. Really feeding that inner child, giving yourself permission to do what lights you up. That's going to allow you to show up even better for the world.
Thank you for that answer. Sorry, my voice is sounding crazy on the mic. But I have a question. I wanted to ask, have you ever experienced toxic expansion? So where a person is expanding, but it's not good. They're
Tell me
taking
more.
up-
Give me
they're
more
taking up-
detail.
They're technically taking up more space than they probably should. They're thinking about things that are empowering and positive, but they're kind of narcissistic.
So interesting. So I would say that at its core, narcissism is actually from a deep sense of unworthiness. So I don't feel that somebody is truly in an expansive frequency, but kind of lacking empathy and doing what you're describing. And so I would say that, I don't know if this is a partner or a friend, how close this person is to you. The first thing I would say is create some boundaries with the narcissist in your life, if that's possible. And just recognize that, yes. And, it really comes from this so much shame you can't even imagine it. It's the kind of shame that would crack and shatter into a million pieces if it had to look at itself. And because it's that fragile, it can't look at itself. And that's what creates this larger than life kind of persona and image, and they have to keep that going or else they would fall apart. And so I'm kind of speaking from experience. I know some narcissists in my life. It may have been part of why I went on my journey, right, as well, what I had to heal from as well. We know also that narcissists are attracted to people with a lot of empathy, with a lot of care, compassion, a lot of selflessness. So basically, I think everyone in this room is a potential target for a narcissist. I'm so sorry. So everyone in this room particularly, just be mindful of okay, some boundaries are important, and just to recognize that this person doesn't actually think they're awesome. This person actually is worried that they're so insignificant. And when we don't accept ourselves and we don't have a baseline of self-love, it's so hard to look at ourselves and therefore admit any wrongdoing, right? So when we don't have a little bit of self-love, then if we admit that we did something wrong, we immediately feel oh no, I don't deserve connection. I feel I'm an awful human being. I might as well just roll up in a ball and die, right? That's the level of shame and lack of self-acceptance and self-worth and self-love that someone who's narcissistic is experiencing. And I know it doesn't look like that, but that is actually what's happening.
Wow. Well, that's a lot of wisdom, Victoria. A lot.
Thanks
And
for
we
having
can, be here for days, I think, absorbing it all. And I love the exercise. I will share my experience in blending my contraction and expansion at town hall. just somebody ask me a question, and then I'll do that. But I can tell you this, and tell you all of this. One, this is a result of a venture capital money. By the way, this what we've built, this change in the world, it would have not been possible without it. So that's number one. And then number two is that this is a result of my bending my reality into expansion. So
Yes,
thank you,
thank
Victoria.
you.
Thank you so
Aw.
much.
A hug.
Yes. And give it up one more time for Victoria's song, everybody.
Thank you.